Good morning and welcome to Heart-to-Heart, a program which aims to help you understand and to become your loving self. We have some echo going on in the
We've got
background.
echoes.
And I don't know why that's happening, but again,
Oh, it went away now.
let's start again.
It
Good
went
morning
away.
and welcome. You're listening live to Heart, a program which aims to help you understand and to become your loving self. I'm Dr. Mitra Rashidian, a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified sexologist, and with full-time private practice in Encino, California. And I'm here with my wonderful colleague, my business partner, and my very best friend, Dr. Robert Jaffe. Good morning.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction.
My pleasure.
I'm Dr. Robert Jaffe, also a licensed marriage and family therapist, as well as a certified hypnotherapist. And we are here today to talk about addictions. We're here to talk about codependency, and we're here to talk about relationships and trauma. We always dedicate this program to you, our listeners, and we want to let you know that you are here on this planet. You come here with everything you need to feel happy, joyous, and free. Along the way, we may get distracted and lose some of that, but we can recapture it, and that's what we're here to talk about. We believe that we were born here as our loving, authentic, true selves. We come in with many qualities, some of which are we come in open, we come in curious. We're all curious about the world and about ourselves and other people. We come in honest. We don't really know how to lie when we first come in. We learn that later on. We all come in as sexual beings. That's a part of our heritage. And we come in trusting that the world will respond in a positive way. That's how we come in. We also have other abilities, a couple of which are the ability to be emotionally connected with other people. We also have the ability to be confident. And we also have the ability to be compassionate with others. And when we use that ability, things go a lot smoother. There's a lot more love and a lot more happiness. So that's where we come in. And today we're going to talk about different various aspects of addiction and codependency.
And that's such a wonderful thing to talk about because we all need it to understand that. And so I'd like to invite you to please call us live and share your comments, your questions, your concerns. 951-922-3532. That's 951-922-3532. And also you can visit us on our YouTube at www.heart-2-heart.online/YouTube. So Dr. Robert.
Yes.
Codependency, you and I, we have talked about this, that's such a vast area of life.
It is.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a disease of lost selfhood.
Yes,
right?
It is. Yes.
It's looking for happiness outside yourself,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's everything that we shouldn't be doing.
Well.
Pretty much. in order to have like you said, a joyous, happy, comfortable, and beautiful life experience.
Yeah,
right?
we don't recognize how much we have inside of us. Our eyes are focused outward, and the beginning part of life is dependency.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that what the society is telling us? You want to be happy, buy this. You want to be jolly, do this. So everything is external. I mean, really, realistically, the focus on inner part of us is very, very minimum, and then every day it actually becomes less and less and less and less.
Yeah, it's very hard to sell a product when you tell people you don't need it.
Right.
So we have to create a need for the product, and most of the products that we buy are not about needs.
Right.
They're about wants, and the wants have to be cultivated within us in order for us to believe that we need it.
Right.
Yeah. And then, of course, that makes our belief about the world that everything is about getting more and more. We've talked a little bit about the two aspects of the human being, one being the ego. The ego is not a bad part of us. It's a part that we were given at the very beginning of time when man first walked the earth. And that part is the part that needs to survive and be safe. And that's pretty much the way that we define it here in our office, as that ego is the part that wants to survive and be safe. And that ego part of us is very powerful, and we can't live without it because we have bodies and we want our bodies to be safe. But we also believe that we are our bodies, and rather than we are our spirit, our conscious energy, our soul. People use the word heart. That's the other part of the human being. It's the being part. And there's a gentleman who wrote a lot about codependency and addictions by the name of John Bradshaw. He wrote a number of books on it, and he coined the phrase human doings.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's because we are in our culture, we are given the message in many, many different ways that we need to be doing in order to be being. That we are not worth anything if we're not doing something. And that particular message can be a very detrimental message to people. It isn't true in all societies. It isn't true so much in the Eastern world. People are allowed to be without doing. But here we equate whatever we're doing with our worth.
Exactly. I mean, when we meet with somebody, we say, "Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. So what do you do?"
Yeah, or we even use the phrase, "How are you doing?"
Yes, how are you doing? Yes.
Right. We don't say, "Hi, how are you?"
Right.
We say, "How are you doing?"
Right.
And that means that we have to be doing. And if you really look at it, starting from birth, babies, other than they're doing their normal bodily functions, they're really not doing. And yet they're so beautiful and so lovable and so loving. And we look at them and our hearts melt.
Yeah, we enjoy, our heart melts because we're just looking at their being.
Yes, we look at their being.
Yeah.
And their being is so miraculous. How did that happen? And we really have no idea how it happened, but we just know that it happened. And we just take pleasure and joy in their presence. And then, of course, as they start to get older, our expectations begin to come in, and we start to expect different things from them. And that's where the beginning of codependency begins, because as we expect things, the baby, now the small child, now the older child, now the teenager, all think, oh, I have to be accomplishing in order to be accepted, in order to be loved, in order to be cared for. And that's really the beginning of the human doing. And we lose touch with what we call our authentic true selves. And so when we say the codependent self, we're talking about the part of us that believes that we need to be doing, and believes that if we're not doing something, then we're failing.
Right.
And there's something wrong with us.
And that doing thing also includes accomplishments, right?
Of course.
Yes.
Of course.
So the more we accomplish, the more we feel that satisfy but then again, we go for the next level up. Again, there is no end into what we do and how we're doing it. And when we talk to people that what are you ultimately after, they can't describe it.
Yeah, and the reason that they can't describe it is because what everybody is really seeking is peace of mind,
Right.
and comfort and safety and connection with others, deep connection with others. But because we are acculturated to believe that that's not enough, then that's what codependency is. You use the word disease, and I want to say the book that I like a lot, which I'm using to help us talk about this on the radio. It's called Codependence, Healing the Human Condition, and it's by Charles Whitfield. And what he talks about a lot is it's a disease, but he uses the word disease as dis-ease.
Dis-ease.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, we're out of ease. We're not at ease with ourselves. It's not a disease in terms of you can catch it from others, but it's a dis-ease with who we really are. And so there's a feeling that something is missing. And that dis-ease causes us a great deal of anxiety and a great deal of unhappiness and a great deal of angst in our lives. So we're going to talk a little bit now about where it comes from, and we call it, it's a process of wounding. So what we talked about at the very beginning is our authentic true selves and the qualities that we come into the world with. And we say that you come into the world with everything you need to feel happy, joyous, and free. And then the question, of course, is why don't we? Why don't we feel happy, joyous, and free? And that has a lot to do with how we got wounded. This is not about blaming anyone, because our culture is constantly maturing and evolving. And so this is a process of evolution in the world, that we move from ignorance into knowledge and into wisdom. So even though our parents and our culture had a great deal of to do with our wounding, we can't blame them because they were wounded themselves. The grandparents were wounded themselves. So now we just have to focus on how do we heal from it. And that's what we're going to talk about when we come back.
When we come back after commercial break.
After our commercial break.
Okay, see you in a few short minutes. Welcome back from our commercial break. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert here at Heart-to-Heart. Program is about codependency, addictions, trauma, and relationships. This is KMET 1490 ABC News Radio. Please call us. Our phone number live here is 951-922-3532, and share your questions, your concerns. If you don't want your name to be announced, that's fine. This is not a therapy session. We're just going to have a comfortable conversation about the topic that you present to us. You can also visit us at heart-2-heart.online/YouTube, and please introduce this program to those that you believe they can benefit from. Your contribution is really appreciated, and thank you for sharing this hour with us on Friday morning. Dr. Robert,
yes.
You were starting to talk about codependency and how it begins.
Right. I also want to encourage everybody to call us, right?
Yeah.
So our phone number is 951-922-3532. 951-922-3532. Don't worry about interrupting us. We're more than happy to take your call, and we want to find out what you think, and we want to find out what you're liking and what you would like to see different on this program, so we can make it more user-friendly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we were talking about codependency and being a disease, using the word dis-ease. We're out of ease when we are codependent. And codependent has a lot of different aspects to it. So what do we exactly mean when we say codependent? We're using the word dependent in the label of codependent, right? So you can think about codependent as a sense of emotional immaturity that keeps getting worse for people. When we are born dependent. Everybody knows that. There's no debate about that. We're dependent on other people, right? We need other people in order to survive.
Yeah, we need somebody to feed us, put us to bed, sings us lullaby, takes us to doctor, and hold us, care for us. And without those, in particular during the first 2 years, we could die.
Correct. Not could. We will.
We will die.
We will die. Yeah. Just leave a baby alone for a couple of days, and the baby could die.
Yeah.
Right. The baby can't do anything for itself. The only thing the baby can do is its bodily functions, and then, of course, the baby can cry. Right. And so the crying is the signal to the parents that the baby needs something. So nature gave the baby the ability to communicate through its crying, and if the parents are very attentive, after a short time, the mother and sometimes the father as well can sort of tell what the cry means.
Exactly. I know that about my baby when she was born.
Yeah. So it's communicating. It's an I need to be changed cry. It's an I'm hungry cry. It's I'm frightened cry. And
it's I'm bored cry.
Yeah,
hold me cry.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. So the baby cries for help, and the baby is totally dependent, and that's a phase that we all go through. So we move through that phase, and then as we get older, the first thing we learn really is that we can turn over. I have 2 grandchildren, and they're 2 years old now. They just turned 2. And I watched them go through the different stages up until age 2. And the first part of it was they learned they could actually turn over.
Right.
And that was something when they figured that one out, they started turning over all the time, because they go, oh, I have some control here. I have some power. I don't have to be totally dependent. Now I have something I can do. And then little by little, they learn the various things that babies learn. And now they can walk, and now they can even talk. After 2 years.
And they can run.
And they can run really fast. Yeah.
And they can fight.
And they can fight, and yeah. So we go through the first stage, which is dependency. Then we learn how to do things for ourselves, and then we become independent. But we are still codependent when we're little, right? Because we still can't take care of ourselves fully. So we need our parents a lot. At 2 years old, they still can't go out and go to a drive-through and pick up some McDonald's. They still need the parent to feed them. They still need the parent even at 2. They're wearing diapers. They're learning now. They're learning how to use the toilet, but not totally yet. So they need the parent still a lot. So they are dependent, but not totally dependent like they were before.
Right.
So they are dependent on the parent. Now, as they continue to grow and mature, the parent gives more and more responsibility to the child to take care of themselves, and they move into a stage of independence where they're not so dependent on the parent. And that stage lasts quite a while. It goes actually usually through through the early 20s, where we are more and more independent. And then as we start looking for, we become sexual and we want to find a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and then we have to learn how to be with that other person. And then when we're with that other person, we learn that we still have the same responsibility to take care of ourselves, so we still need to be independent. But now we have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and we want to be connected to them and help them through life. And so we start to help each other, and that means that in some way we become dependent on that other person, but we don't lose our independence. So the last stage is what we call interdependence.
Right.
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 And when we are interdependent, we can take care of ourselves. We do take care of ourselves, but at times we help the other person and we take care of the other person. Certainly, if the other person has an accident or gets sick, we can and will take care of the other person, and are happy to do so because we love and care about that person. Right. That's the normal cycle of development.
Yes.
And we stay interdependent.
Right. And we also, as we see that for various aspects of life, we need other experts, we need other skills that we don't have, but somebody else has it. So that's not codependency. That's, right. Yeah, that is different. I mean, we need to have, a roofer to come and do our roofs, right?
Exactly.
We need to have a teacher to teach us something. We need to have a, baker to bake us something, right?
Right.
That is not because we need them. That's not codependency.
Exactly.
Right.
It's not codependence because we still feel and act independently.
Right.
And then we, as an independent person, we have the ability to bring in people who can help us to do things that we don't know how to do or want to learn how to do.
Right.
Right. So that's not codependency. So that this brings up the issue of what we call a functional and dysfunctional family system, because what we just described in terms of moving from dependency to independency to interdependency, it comes from being in a family which is a functional family system. That means that the mother and father have good self-esteem, and they are not controlling of the children, and they don't allow the children to take over their own lives until they're ready.
Right.
But that's a process. So more and more, they give the child the feeling that they are loved no matter what they do, and they are competent to take over their own lives as they are able to do it. So the child grows up believing that he or she can do these things, and that they're going to be loved, and that their love is not dependent on their behavior. It's dependent on who they are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a functional family system, and the functional family system in our society is there, and there are many functional family systems. However, there are even more dysfunctional family systems. And the dysfunctional family system comes from parents who have grown up in their own dysfunctional family. And what do we mean by that? What we mean by that is the parents themselves are immature. So in what ways are the parents immature? The parent themselves did not get the positive, unconditional love that they needed when they grew up. And so since they didn't get it, they didn't know what it was, and they didn't know how to pass it on to us. And so most parents are not evil. I'm not going to say all parents aren't evil, because there is evil in the world and there are people who are evil, but the majority of people, the majority of parents are not evil, and they're not trying to hurt their children. But they do so because they haven't learned themselves things that they have needed to learn about how to feel okay without being without having to prove that you're okay.
Right.
So what happens in a dysfunctional family is that the parents who are immature themselves don't know how to regulate their own emotions. And therefore, oftentimes in a dysfunctional family, you find parents who have addictions. Many times it's alcohol addiction. Sometimes it's drug addiction. Sometimes it's a gambling addiction. And quite often it's a food addiction. And so the parent uses those things, the alcohol, the food, the drugs. Sometimes it's a gambling addiction. Sometimes it's a sexual addiction. And you find the parents are out cheating on each other. So so with those various addictions, the child then doesn't get the nurturing that the parent could give them, because the parent is trying to find something to make them feel okay.
Right.
Addictions are about mood regulation. So when we start using something on a regular basis to regulate our mood, to make us feel better, that's coming from the outside. We're getting, even when the addiction is not something that we're putting in our body, like alcohol or food or drugs, it can be a process like, for example, like gambling, where
Sex.
Gambling and sex, yeah. Where, when I'm using gambling now as an example, gambling is when you are taking a gamble on something, and your brain chemistry starts going haywire and releases a lot of chemicals to make you feel excited, which then changes how you feel. So when gamblers go to Vegas or find ways of gambling here, without going to Vegas, there's a ton of ways we can gamble here. You can spend all your money on the lottery if you wish.
Yes.
And a lot of people do. They do that in part because it gives them the rush and the adrenaline and other chemicals in the brain that change their mood and make them feel excited. The other addiction that I want to comment on, which is very, very big in our society, is shopping. Shopping, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's what I was referring to at the beginning of the program. Society tells us, we want things externally to
Right.
make us happy, to make us feel accomplished, to make us feel powerful, to make us feel even better than our neighbor, than my sister, than my cousin, than my friends, because if I have something better in terms of brand, in terms of quality, in terms of number of things, I feel more powerful compared to them.
Well,
Right?
yeah. You feel, wow,
Yeah.
I'm something.
I'm something, because I'm driving this car.
Exactly.
And my neighbor doesn't have it. My cousin doesn't have it. My boss doesn't have it.
Yeah. Which leads to the old adage, when life gets tough, the tough go shopping, right? So you go shopping and you get distracted by looking at all the pretty baubles, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying baubles. It can be jewelry, it can be clothing, it can be anything. And then once you spend the money, you get that same adrenaline rush that people get through gambling, right? So this is, and I'm not saying that drinking or even using some drugs or shopping or gambling, none of that in and of itself is the problem. The problem is that the person doesn't feel good about themselves, and they don't recognize that they don't feel good about themselves. All they know is they want to change in mood.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you're bored, I'm bored. Let's just go shopping, see what's going on.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
I'm bored, let's just have a muffin. I'm bored, let's just grab that gallon of ice cream in the freezer.
Yeah. And so what goes on at a subconscious level is there's a process inside of us that makes us feel not okay.
Yeah.
It's either we're okay or we're not okay. And the not okay feeling then leads us into doing these different addictions. The biggest addiction is codependence, which means that we don't have access to our loving, authentic, true self without the connection with and approval of another person. And we're going to go a little deeper into that as soon as we come back from our next commercial.
See you in 3 minutes. Welcome back from our commercial break. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert here at KMET 1490 AM, ABC News Radio. Codependency and the importance of that in our lives and how it controls us. Please also call us 951-922-3532. So, Dr. Robert.
So we're talking about codependency and the fact that it comes from wounded parenting.
Right.
And again, we're not here to bash the parents. I'm a parent.
I'm a parent.
I'm a parent. You're a parent. We're many parents, and we all have had parents, right? And most of our parents do the best that they know how to do. Most of our parents try to love us and help us in whatever ways they can. But because we all come from imperfect people, and some people are more imperfect than others. We have to learn how to adapt to that. So the people that we are calling codependent are people who come from the dysfunctional families where the parents have been emotionally wounded.
Right.
And as a result of their wounding, they have emotional immaturity. And then they themselves are probably codependent and are also perhaps addicts. And we talked earlier about different kinds of addictions. I won't repeat that. But what does it mean actually to be codependent? And it means that you don't have a solid sense of who you are. And who you are is a human being, and we talked before about what the being part is. The being part is the same. When you look at yourself in a photograph, and you see yourself, let's say if you're 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 right now, and you see yourself at a younger age, the fact is that you are the same person, but you're not the same person at the outer level.
Right.
Right. So you don't have the same body that you had 10 years ago, because all of the cells die and you replace the cells, and the cells have aged, and so you don't look the same. And so people who knew you 10 or 20 or 30 years ago may recognize you because you have similar features, but you don't look the same at all. And so the part of us that changes is the ego part of us. That's the part of us that's bound in time and space. The part of us that's our authentic selves is unchangeable. That's our essence. That is our I'm going to call our spirit or our energy. So what we need in order to feel good about ourselves is to know that who we are is a worthwhile, loving and loved and competent person. And when we have the feeling of competence, that we can take care of ourselves, and also that we can make some contribution to the world, and it doesn't matter really how little or how big it is. If we feel like we can contribute to the world, we can take care of ourselves, and we are loved and lovable.
Well, I think this is a part where many of us fail to recognize, right? Many of us fail. What exactly do you mean, self-love? What exactly do you mean, that I must love myself. I do love myself. I eat well. I uh, put on good clothes. I go to work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's self-care, which is an aspect of self-love.
Right.
Right. But it's not really self-love. And then we grow up in a competitive world where we have to compete in order to feel that we are accomplishing things.
Well, people believe
Yeah.
that they have to compete.
Yeah.
You're saying as though it's fact.
Yeah,
It's not.
it's
Yeah,
not.
it's not.
This is how we learned about ourselves. This is what we learn about ourselves.
It's one.
Right?
It's one
Yeah.
part that leads us into believing that
Right.
we're not okay on our own.
On our own.
Mhm.
So when you mention to be, right, I have seen many parents that when they take their kids to camping, for example, in nature, kids start to, after an hour or so, they start complaining. We are bored. What are we supposed to do here? There is nothing to do here.
Mhm.
Or some people say, why should we go camping? There is nothing to do. There's only bugs and the bears and the things, and it's boring, right?
Mhm.
So that means that we haven't learned how to be ourselves within our natural setting, which is nature.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Right?
That's true.
And as though if we don't do something, then there is something's wrong, right? So that doing part and definitely, has taken us away from our spiritual part, from our part that who we are as a human being.
Right.
Has taken us away from self-love and understanding what self-love exactly means.
Exactly.
Right. And we have been we signed up for this race of I have to accomplish this, I have to do this, I have to do that in order to be known as somebody and therefore to survive.
Right. So how would you talk about self-love? Well, if it's not eating well, if it's not getting nice clothes, if it's not holding down a job, what would it be?
Well, those are self-care. Those are skills and tools that we need to function in this society. And of course, the more we do that and the higher level we do that, we get more benefit out of it. That's self-care. That's self-accomplishments. That's but self-love to me is be myself.
Mm-hmm.
Be that authentic part of me and understanding myself and appreciate who I am as a person. That's my spiritual part that I need to recognize, that I need to accept, and I need to connect to. And when you said that in Eastern countries, there is more of to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have that in a Western society.
Right.
So self-love is to me is how do I connect to that part of me, which is my being. Right. That's where my self-love is.
I think the key word that you said there was appreciate.
Yeah.
I think loving is appreciation.
Appreciation,
right?
Yes.
So you and I are writing that ebook right now on about how to help men to connect more with their significant other, and how to help them to recognize that that the way to connect is through being their authentic true self.
Right. So if I want to summarize that to say how I will be able to love myself is to be able to say to me, to myself, right, I love me, I hear me, and I see me.
Oh, you got it too.
I got it too. Yes.
You got it too.
Right.
He's on that kick.
He's on that kick.
Little private joke there.
Right.
Okay. So, love and appreciation, right? So appreciation. What would make you feel loved? If someone said, I really appreciate, the fact that you have such a great sense of humor. Your sense of humor is delicious, and I can't get enough of it. And I would just, and whenever I see you, and I can see that the mind is working, and you're about to come up with something that's going to be cute or funny.
Oh, thank you.
I just, yeah. and that's appreciation.
Right.
That's giving a loving compliment, and that's the way that we can treat ourselves, right? So a lot of self-love I think of as the beginning part of that is self-talk.
Right.
And if we don't feel good about who we are, we often give ourselves negative self-talk, and we put ourselves down, and even calling ourselves names. You idiot, you're stupid, what's wrong with you?
How could you do this? How
Yeah.
could you not think of this?
Yeah,
I mean, we
yeah.
don't need our parents to punish us. We do a very good job there.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So anytime you're giving a negative message to yourself, you're not being loving to yourself. Anytime you're giving a negative message to your child, you're not being loving to your child. So then people say, well, then how can we learn if we don't recognize when we make mistakes? And what I'm saying about it is, number one, we have to be conscious of what we're labeling as mistakes, because anything that you do, you can learn from, but you can only learn from it to the extent that you're not busy castigating yourself or castigating the other person. And so, going back to codependency, our parents or ourselves were raised by immature people who used the idea of punishment
and discipline
in a way that was harmful to us, because they would punish us for things that all we needed to do was to have them explain to us, so that we could understand what we were doing that was not working in our best interest or hurtful to others.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So the first part of codependence is having parents who are immature and don't realize that because the parent feels inadequate, they pass that feeling consciously sometimes, but mostly subconsciously, onto the child, that you're not good enough. And you can so there I have worked with people who tried to be good enough to please their parents and have brought home all A's and one B, and the parents' first comment is, "Oh, a B in English."
Yeah.
See, not even commenting on all the A's. And that's because we are so focused on looking for what's wrong that we blind ourselves to seeing what's so wonderful and what's so great about us.
Yes. I mean, here's, when we see somebody that's, they're upset or something, the first thing we say, "Oh my gosh, what's wrong?" Right?
Yeah.
And so that's immediately, that's our very first response.
Exactly.
What's wrong? What's wrong?
Yeah. So the last thing that I want to comment on, because we're running short of time, we have a few more minutes, is that what happens to children who grow up in dysfunctional families is that they take on the role of parenting their parents. We use the word in psychology with such children, and we call them parentified.
Right.
Parentified, which means that the child now has the role of parenting their parent, and as a result, they feel like they have to they have to be more mature in order to parent their parents, and therefore they don't get to have the connection with their own childhood, and their own childhood needs start becoming they disconnect from what they need in order to take care of the parent.
Exactly.
And that's really what we're talking about when we talk about codependence as a disease of lost selfhood, because as a child, you're not supposed to be burdened with adult responsibilities, and that you're supposed to grow into that. But if, as a young child, you have to take care of your parent who has passed out because they drank too much, or who goes into a rage because you came home too late, You have to calm them down. You have to make sure that they're okay in order to take care of you. That's the beginning part of codependence. And as a result of that, we grow up ourselves without having had the connection with our own needs. And so then we look to others to fill us up. And then we are also attracted to others who are probably more like our parents. And we marry our mom or our dad, not knowing that we're doing that.
Right.
And we end up doing the same dance with them that we did with our parents. But of course, our spouse doesn't look like our parent, and we don't think that they're our parent. But at an emotional level, we are in the same emotional dance with them, and that dance is I will take care of you if you will take care of me.
Yes.
And that is the essence of codependence. Is I'm not able to really take care of myself, so I depend on you, and you're not able to take care of yourself, so you depend on me, rather than I'm able to take care of myself and you're able to take care of yourself, and we don't depend on each other, but we can share and grow with each other.
Well, let's talk more about that next Friday. This is a fascinating topic, and we just are beginning on that. There is far more to learn, and I'd like to invite you to also join us next Thursday at 3 p.m. for another episode of Sexuality. Until then, be safe, and don't forget, all you need is love.
Love, love, love.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The preceding was a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed